Built like a linebacker and healthy as an ox. That's the takeaway you're supposed to get from Trump's medical report. But some details aren't adding up. On April 13th, President Donald Trump was able to fulfill at least one campaign promise. He released his medical report. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt took to X to post screenshots of the medical examiner's findings, which claimed the president was at the height of physical fitness. But it didn't take long for people to start picking apart the numbers. And it turns out there are just a few too many red flags. For starters, there were visible typos in the report, which doesn't necessarily invalidate anything. But as one person pointed out, it doesn't exactly build confidence in the rest of the document either. Then there's the claim that Trump has a resting heart rate of 62 beats per minute. For context, a resting heart rate of 40 to 60 is what you'd expect to find in younger athletes in peak physical form. A lower heart rate is an indicator of proper cardiovascular function. In other words, your heart is ticking the way it should tick. But that's ideal even for someone who's young and active. For someone in Trump's age bracket, the ideal resting heart rate is between 75 to 128 beats per minute, with the predictive average for a 78-year-old hovering around 150 beats per minute. So you have to forgive us for taking that info with a grain of salt, especially since Trump's diet usually contains way more than a few grains of salt. We all know Trump loves his McDonald's, and with a diet like that, it's a little hard to swallow the idea that this guy's resting heart rate is on par with these guys. If that's the picture of health, then most of the country is at peak school.
When it started, America was just a handful of scrawny colonies. Now, it's the most buff, pumped-up country on the planet.
If that was the only head-scratcher of a number in there, we'd be inclined to let it go. But it's a little convenient that the entire report puts Trump's vitals at the exact prime spot. The numbers might as well have been pulled out of a medical textbook. His blood pressure of 120/80 is the exact same as the benchmark levels laid out on the NIH website, for example. Cholesterol, triglycerides, vitamin levels, it's the same story for all of them. Sure, it could all be on the up and up, but on the other hand, this certainly wouldn't be the first time Trump has lied about his anatomy. And of course, a lot of people took notice of his height. The medical report claims that Trump is 75 inches tall, which shakes out to 6'3". That's the usual number given for Trump, but let's take a second to compare. Former Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau is 6 feet 2 inches high. His stated height looks legit when he's next to Barron, who Google tells us is now 13 feet tall. But what about, say, Prince William? The royal is reported to be the same height as Trump, 6'3". But somehow that never seems to be the case when they're in public together either. It's not uncommon to stretch the truth a little bit when it comes to height. Tons of people do it. But being one of the most photographed people around today definitely makes it harder to get away with it. Lots of little lies eventually add up. And in the end, it's unfortunately too easy to question some of the figures in this medical report. From his height to his resting heart rate. Hey, maybe they were just more typos.